Knowledge does not make you a god, talking monkey.
No. Being a god makes me a god.
This physicist has become so powerful that he has entered the quantum hell to showcase his abilities. Superpowers are outdated. Today, let me show you how science can defeat everything. On an ordinary rainy night, scientist Luke takes a taxi to a villa. He receives an anonymous invitation to participate in a secret biological quantum experiment. Inside, there's a strange-looking old man and two women with very different personalities. Although they are all quite beautiful, they are not useless ornaments. The woman in black is an expert in quantum mechanics, and the Russian woman wearing gloves is a medical student with empathic psychic abilities. She wears gloves to block her powers. Soon, Luke meets Brad, a pharmaceutical expert. The four of them, all highly educated, are puzzled by the invitation. Later, several oddly dressed staff members come and instruct them to take their luggage upstairs. Afterward, they all enjoy dinner. The villa's owner, Richard, finally appears. Everyone present has heard of him. Richard is an authority across multiple academic fields. However, in 1973, he was expelled from the United States for unethical human experiments. He clearly is dissatisfied with this arrangement and becomes emotional when the topic of his expulsion is mentioned. Clota notices Richard's discomfort and quickly brings over a porcelain bowl to apply medicine to the strange wound on Richard's back. The four of them exchange confused glances. Not knowing what he is doing, since everyone knows about Richard's dark history, he begins to expose the dark secrets of his guests. First, there's Brad, the pharmaceutical scientist. The pills he developed caused the suffering of thousands of teenagers. At a large party last September, Brad's pills caused the deaths of many teens. Thanks to the elite lawyers he hired, Brad avoided a lengthy prison sentence. Next is Ivana, a first-generation American of Argentine descent. Exceptionally intelligent, but no one knows Ivana is carrying two murders on her conscience. She is a real-life murderer. Then there's Sophie, the Russian woman. After her twin sister died, Sophie became obsessed with near-death experiences. She loves using her empathic abilities to feel the pain of those who are near death. She even used her identity as a medical student to secretly inject patients with heart-stopping drugs. Luke interrupts Richard, saying, "No need to expose my secrets. I'll tell you myself. I accidentally killed my fiancée." Richard reveals that he isn't exposing their secrets to threaten them but because he believes they are all the same type of people. They are willing to break any law to get what they want. The reason Richard gathered the four of them is to conduct a secret experiment. He believes the key to manipulating time is controlling quantum mechanics. Richard wants to break through the quantum barrier and enter another dimension. After saying this, he asks his assistant to bring over a suitcase containing 4 bottles of quantum ammonia. This substance can rearrange every molecule inside and around the human body, and it is one of the keys to breaking through the quantum barrier. In addition to that, they need biomechanical components and mental control abilities. Richard has already solved the hardest part by creating the quantum ammonia, and the rest will be up to the four of them to research. He will provide the laboratory. The four of them immediately get excited. If this experiment succeeds, they could clear their names and make history. Richard leads the group to the laboratory. As they enter, they see a massive device that generates frequency synchronization of the protons inside the room. However, Richard hasn't yet found the correct frequency. This is something Luke will have to figure out. Then Sophie's psychic ability manifests. She senses a dark aura, and Richard explains that someone died in the lab not long ago. In order to break through the quantum barrier, they need to turn the quantum ammonia into vapor to achieve stable atomization. However, when in liquid form, quantum ammonia dissolves human tissue, which is why Richard's partner died, and Richard himself lost both legs. Now, he can only move around using a wheelchair. Just then, Clota approaches and whispers something to Richard. Richard then says that he has urgent business to attend to in Geneva. During his absence, the four can freely research the lab, and everything that happens will be automatically recorded on a secure server. After Richard leaves, the four scientists immediately begin their research. In fact, Richard has already completed most of the work. The problem they need to solve is how to keep a human alive in a double-separated state. The first task is to balance quantum entanglement. Richard has already pointed the way, which is to turn quantum ammonia into a gaseous state. When the body has enough time to undergo superposition, the internal and external balance of the quantum ammonia will be maintained, and everything must proceed at a controlled speed. As for how to convert liquid quantum ammonia into gas, Brad is in charge. Luke and Ivana will be responsible for adjusting the frequency, ensuring the room maintains a constant hertz and synchronizes the protons. Finally, There is Sophie with the ability to communicate with spirits. Richard left her with a special device that not only enhances her psychic powers but also allows her to connect the consciousness of the 4 individuals. Serving as the team's spiritual spear, the personal roles and directions are clear, and now it's time to implement them. Meanwhile, Richard hasn't gone to Geneva. Instead, he enters a secret laboratory and locks himself in a mysterious device. On the other side, the main group begins their first attempt. Following the procedure, they experience the incredible effects of quantum ammonia. Flashes of images appear in their minds, and strange wounds, similar to Richard's, appear on their backs. When the hallucinations end, the laboratory is in chaos. The quantum ammonia and research materials have disappeared, and even the backup files are gone. Ivana has a severe headache and just wants to rest. Luke and the others follow him out of the lab, but Sophie remains behind. At that moment, the screen in front of her suddenly activates, showing a woman who looks just like her but with a black mole at the corner of her eye. This is her twin sister. Sophie feels an intense headache. When the others return to the lab, they find Sophie lying on the floor. They quickly lift her out of the lab. Ivana helps her to rest upstairs. Sophie quietly tells her that her psychic ability warns them that they are not safe, but she can't identify the source of the danger. On the other side, 2 young men were holed up in a room, planning to use the drug developed by Brad to drown their sorrows. In a daze, Luke thought he heard his fiancée's voice, although he couldn't see her with his eyes. He clearly saw a woman's figure on the monitor in the corner. Meanwhile, Clara was watching all of this with great interest. Late at night, a mysterious energy began to move through the villa. It moved its way up to the 2nd floor and entered Sophie's room. She was in the bathroom, showering, when suddenly something hit the shower curtain. Thinking it was just Ivana playing a prank, Sophie pulled back the curtain, only to find no one there. Rushing out of the bathroom, Sophie saw the word murderer written on the mirror. The bathroom door had been locked. Sophie approached and wiped the word off the mirror. Looking at her own reflection, she was startled when the figure in the mirror suddenly smiled eerily. It was her twin sister. In the next instant, the twin broke the mirror and strangled Sophie. Sophie struggled desperately, but it was in vain. She could only grab a shard of the broken mirror and stab it into her sister, but the twin didn't seem to feel any pain and didn't loosen her grip. Sophie eventually lost her breath. Her twin lay on her chest and then entered her body. The broken mirror instantly reassembled, and Sophie's body was now occupied by her twin. Sophie herself was trapped inside the mirror. Meanwhile, Brad, unable to sleep, got up to eat. He saw a beautiful woman appear, and overcome by lust, he immediately chased after her. Unexpectedly, the surroundings shifted, and Brad found himself inside a bar at a party. The woman reappeared, dancing provocatively beside him. Brad enjoyed the woman's kisses when he suddenly tasted the bitter flavor of the contraband. Terrifying memories flooded his mind. He remembered the countless people who had died because of contraband. He yelled at the people around him to spit out the pills, but to his horror, the men and women around him turned into unbreakable evil spirits, who crazily swarmed toward Brad and ripped his flesh apart. From this, it became clear that both Brad and Sophie were tormented by their past wrongdoings. At the same time, Luke was reunited with his fiancée. However, the once charming woman was now covered in rotting, festering wounds. Through their conversation, it was revealed that the experiment the 4 of them conducted had indeed broken open the quantum barrier. The people who had died were beings from another dimension. The scene shifted to Ivana. She looked out the window, where heavy rain was falling. The entire villa appeared to be floating in midair. Ivana realized that their experiment might have succeeded. They were likely now in the quantum realm. At that moment, Sophie, now possessing her twin sister's body, appeared, holding a shard of the broken mirror, intending to kill Ivana. Meanwhile, Brad, his skin torn away, had gone mad and wanted to kill Luke to return to the real world. In a panic, Ivana rushed downstairs, and Luke seized the opportunity to stab Brad in the chest. He grabbed Ivana and tried to escape, but Sophie pursued them. She stabbed Ivana with the shard. The scene turned chaotic as Brad and Ivana, now both dead, transformed into beings from that dimension. Of the 4, only Luke remained alive. He rushed to open the front door, desperate to leave, but a massive octopus tentacle crawled in from outside. Luke was forced to slam the door shut. Just then, Richard finally appeared in the quantum realm. His legs were no longer disabled. Everything had been part of Richard's plan. He had long discovered how to enter the quantum realm and was now serving a quantum demon within it. Richard had gathered the 4 of them because their souls were wicked enough to please the demon. Thus, Richard had designed this experiment to bring them into the quantum realm. Luke, upon hearing this, turned and ran. However, No matter which direction he fled in, he kept returning to the main hall. Everything around him was an illusion created by Richard's brain. To return to the real world, Luke would have to kill Richard. Richard agreed to duel him. As soon as he finished speaking, the villa transformed into a grassy field. Brad appeared with 2 guns and told them to engage in a Western-style duel, both shooting at each other. However, Luke's gun was a fake and couldn't fire. Without hesitation, Richard shot Luke in the chest. Now, all 4 of them were dead. The quantum demon emerged, its head resembling a giant octopus. Richard had kept his promise, bringing forth the souls of the 4. The quantum demon would now pay the agreed price. The scene shifted as Klaatu activated a mysterious device. A now fully capable Richard walked out, his legs healed. He disposed of the bodies of the 4 scientists and left the old villa. And with that, the film came to an end.